Now let's move to the next step of the process. After having created our dossier in Euclid, we have to submit it via HIT. So Alexis, who is an industrial chemist who joined ECA back in 2010 and working as part of the HIT team, will explain us more on that. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Temenushka, for the presentation. I was surprised in the morning when you said this was a horrible weather in the morning. When I was walking from the hotel, 10 minutes walk, I was thinking, oh, what a beautiful weather today. So imagine how was the weather in Helsinki when we left. So my name is Alexis Quintana Sainz. Originally, I'm from Spain. I've been living in Finland now for 7 years, working in ECA. Before that, I had not previous experience in REACH, as probably, very few people in ECA had previous experience in REACH before 2010, probably Crystal and a few more. And then I was brought into the REACH 2010 deadline, first working in the REACH AT, in the invoicing module. So if you pay invoices, it's in a way thanks to me. Sorry for that. I was planning to talk a little bit about, first, some introduction about the regulatory processing in ECA, then the REACH AT main functionalities. Of course, by now, I will talk only about the new REACH AT. First, before we start, how many of you have logged in recently in REACH AT? Can you raise your hands? Okay, good. I hope you have seen an improvement compared with the previous REACH AT. I hope it's more user-friendly because this is what we were working for during the last 1.5 years, even 2. I will talk about the dossier submission process. I will show you how to submit the dossier that, for example, you created with Euclid. But I will show you another way of submitting a dossier and creating a dossier. You don't need to use Euclid to create a dossier and submit a dossier. You can use it right in REACH AT. And then I will finalize with some key messages. So regulatory process seen in the agency. So imagine that it's a pipeline where the product that enters is a dossier. So first thing, what happens when you submit a dossier, the dossier is uploaded, and then some technical IT stuff is happening. So we have the virus scan, so we check that you are not submitting a virus, for example. We do a file format validation. Mainly we check that you are submitting the right version of Euclid, or not maybe a picture of your grandmother by mistake. These kind of things, this is what happens here. This is almost done in a couple of minutes. So if you go to the submission, to your submission, you will very fast see that you will pass this step. Then we go to the business rules check. As Francois mentioned before, this is a series of administrative checks. So, for example, we check that if you're submitting a lead or a member, that if it's an initial or it's an update, that you submitted the dossier for the correct substance that you indicated in the joint submission. Then the pipeline divides into one, the invoice. You will be able to see the invoice that you receive under the tasks. And your dossier will be checked in the technical completeness check. Francois also mentioned before. And about this manual, I also would like to add, in the past we had a dossier that in all the justifications, they were saying sin datos, sin datos, sin datos, which in Spanish means no data, no data, no data. So this is what we are trying to avoid. Then we go to the overall completeness check. In this case, if the invoice hasn't been paid by the due date, the companies will receive an invoice reminder. And finally, when the invoice has been paid, when the TCC step has passed, the companies will receive a decision. Most of the cases, companies receive positive decisions. In some cases, there are negative ones. If that's the case, you will receive information about that as well. So this is about the regulatory processing by the agency. So we go now to the Rich IT main functionalities. So as you know by now, so Rich IT is the central IT system, as you can read there, that supports industry, member state, competent authorities, and the European Chemicals Agency to securely submit, process, and manage data and dossiers. So it's not only industry, it's also member states and ECHA that are involved here. They are the main actors. And as I said, during the last 2 years, we were working to make Rich IT more user-friendly. So when you log in, if you haven't logged in the last 9 months, because we launched this in June last week, so if you haven't logged in if you log in now, so you will see a more intuitive user interface. You will also see integrated help. So before this was not available. Let's see if I found the. So where is it, the laser thingy? Here, yes. So on the top right corner of each page, there is a small symbol of a booklet, a book. So if you click there, the help will open, help related to that page. From last month, you even have that help available in 22 languages of the European Union, also German. I don't know if it's German from Germany or from Austria. Hope you understand both. Then we also have checklists available before the submission. This is in order to help companies to know what is happening at each stage. Besides that, we have an easier identification of the co-registrants and of the existing joint submissions. In the past, we got a lot of questions regarding how can I find who the lead of the joint submission is. So now this is available. If companies have pre-registered or inquired for the substance, they will be able to see who the lead registrant is, even if they are not members of the joint submission. And besides that, we have the online registration for members. So as I said before, no need to install Euclid for members if they don't wish. The main sections of Rich IT, they are shown here. We have the first, on the left, the submit a dossier. There are 3 ways of submitting a dossier, as I will say. So you can submit the dossier that you created in Euclid. You can create the online dossier, as I said, but we have still some web forms, like, for example, for the alternative chemical name, for the notification for substances in articles. We are working towards the deletion of these web forms and make everything, all the different submissions available in Rich IT. In the middle, we have something new, which is tasks. This term didn't exist before. What we mean with tasks are things that you have to do by a certain deadline. So if, for example, you receive an invoice, it will appear in tasks. So if you fail TCC, you will receive a task. If you fail business rules, you will receive a task. These tasks will be listed, are listed, and once you complete them, you can mark them as done, completed. So you can use it as an easy way, as a task manager system as well, if you wish. And the last main area is the substance area. We are trying to go towards a more substance-centric view of Reach IT. So before we were all the time talking about submissions. Now you can go to the substance section, search for sulfuric acid, and there you will see all the different submissions where the sulfuric acid has been involved. On the top of the page, we have messages. So this is for your information. And also a quick search where you can include your submission number, reference number, invoicing number. So it's a search, a quick search. And of course, we have the main menu on the top left part of Reach IT. And when you click there, so you see all the different things you can do in Reach IT. So the main one is the submit, with all the different types of submissions you can do. And we have the search with all the different searches, like search for reference number, submissions. We have the joint submission section. This one, you can either create a new joint submission, you can join an existing submission once you have received the token and the joint submission name from the lead, or you can search and view the joint submissions that you are part of, or if you are not part of, also if you have pre-registered or inquired for the substance. On the right side, we have more the managed company section where you can update your company information, update your company size, add your contacts, or have the email notification settings. So you know that if something is happening in your Reach IT account, you will receive a message about that, on what was happening in Reach IT during that day. I will show you later on a slide about this. Very useful in information, actually. So about the topics, about the help, sorry. So there are three different kinds of help here. We have the topic help. Topic help, it's the little question mark in orange that is appearing here and there in Reach IT. So this explains what is normally what we used to say there is like what you have to fill there. What do we mean with submission type, for example, in this example? We have the checklists in wizards in order to help you to move forward. And we have the page help, as I mentioned before. You can change to different languages there. And some words about the company size. So if you would create an account now in Reach IT, by default, that company size will be set as large. So if your company size is not large, so go back to Reach IT, go to the company size section, and there you will follow a wizard that it will explain you what you have to do. For example, you have to provide information for companies newly created, for accounts newly created, so they have to provide information about their company composition, for example. Not substance composition in this example, but company composition. What is the company structure? How many people are working there, and so on. So let's move to the dossier submission. Here are the main steps that are happening when you are submitting a dossier. So I will tell them now, and then later I will explain little by little what is going on. So we have the joint submission. You will receive the token from your lead registrant. You will become a member of the joint submission. You will prepare and submit your dossier, and you will follow the process of your dossier after submission in Reach IT in order to see that you have passed business rules, TCC, etc. So let's go with the first one, search and join the joint submission. So there are three different ways of finding a joint submission or finding your co-registrants. So The first one, the one I recommend, because I was working on that to implement it, so is via the joint submission search in Reach IT. There is a button which says search for other joint submissions. So maybe you wonder, what is this about? So, as I said before, if you have pre-register or inquiry for the substance, even if you are not a member of the joint submission yet, if you tick that box, you will see all the joint submissions that have been created for that specific substance. And you will see who the lead is with the contact details of the lead. You will be able to contact the joint submission lead and agree if you, agree to be part of the joint submission. Another way of finding the co-registrants is via the perceive. So if you have pre-registered your substance, so you will have a list of all the pre-registrants there. Or we also have the co-registrants page if you have, for example, inquired or already registered for the substance. So at the end of May 2017, so this year, we will close the pre-registration. So companies that will not be able to pre-register anymore, so some of them will need to do an inquiry instead. So once you know you have contact with the lead, so it's good to negotiate on the substance sameness and agree on the data sharing. So probably you heard that yesterday. I wasn't here yesterday, unfortunately. So search and join the joint submission. I will repeat it several times because it's so easy. So this is the tick box I was talking about. Show other joint submissions filter. You click there, all the substance you register and inquired will appear there if you are not a member. So when you are there, you click one of the joint submissions. If you're not a member there, so you can launch the wizard to become a member, which says very easily joint submission. You click there, and with the joint submission name and the token that it was provided by the lead, so you will be able to become a member then. So once we are done that, and once we add the contact details for the joint submission, please have always your contacts updated in case we need to contact or in case the other members of the joint submission need to contact you. So once you provide the contacts, and then we go to the confirmation step, then we have created the joint submission. We are members now of the joint submission, and we are able now, by clicking in the joint submission name, to access the joint submission page. So this is how it looks, the new joint submission page. On the left part of the page is the information related to the joint submission. So for example, what is the substance, the joint submission information, like if it's a joint submission for intermediate or for a full registration, the joint submission name, the joint submission coverage. This is, for example, for transported isolated intermediates, if the guidance on safe use has been provided by the lead or not, and also the lead registrant contact. On the right-hand side, this is the information, your own information. If you have submitted a dossier, you will be able to see what kind of dossier you have submitted, the tonnage band of your dossier within this joint submission. And we see here on the left, lead dossier has submitted, it's in green. Your own dossier, it still hasn't submitted. On the bottom part of the page, we have the scope of the joint submission. This is what Francois was talking about before, the coverage of the joint submission. And then we also have all the members of the joint submission. Before, only the leads could see all the members of the joint submission. Now we have made that's available for all the members. Leads and members see exactly the same. So if we go now to the part of submitting the dossier. So in order to submit the dossier, first the lead has to submit. If you're a member, the lead has to submit it first. So that's why in this case, we see that the lead has not submitted, we haven't submitted, and we don't have the submit button on the top of the page. Until the lead has submitted and has passed business rules, the members will not be able to submit. So that's why for the leads, don't wait until the last minute of the deadline, because then you will make life more difficult to the members to submit their dossiers online. In this case, so we see that the lead has submitted, is green, and we have on the top submit a Euclid dossier or create a submit online button available for the members. So that means that now we can submit. If we go, let's go back a little bit. If we go to submit a Euclid dossier, the dossier, for example, that Francois created before, if we click there from the joint submission page, we will have already the information about the joint submission populated in the page. So we'll have it's a registration for a joint submission, and the joint submission name and everything will be appearing there. In the right, we have once, as I said before, we have the checklist that reminds you what you have to do in each step, which information you have to have by hand, in hand, so in order to complete the process. Next step, we submit the dossier. Once again, with the checklist on the right, like for example, run the Euclid Validation Assistant plugin. And we go to additional details section, where here we can have the purchase order and the contacts. At the end, we have a confirmation page where you take a look to, okay, all the information that I have provided is correct. So it seems that the billing address is correct. This is a very common thing, that the billing address changes, and we haven't submitted anything in several months of years. And then when we receive the invoice, the financial departments, your financial department say, oh, this invoice doesn't have the correct billing address, we cannot pay that. So then you contact ECA, and then we are able to create a new invoice, but you also have to change the information. So it's a little bit burdensome, especially for you. We do live happily always. And at the end, we get the confirmation of the submission. You get the preliminary submission number. When you click there, you get to the submission report. Here is where you can follow the process of your dossier. So in this case, I fail business rules. So, and if you fail business rules, don't be afraid, read the instructions, and they will make sense. For example, in this case, I fail business rules because instead of submitting for a specific substance, imagine I wanted to submit for sulfuric acid, I was in the joint submission for sulfuric acid, I chose another dossier. I mean, of course, if you have tens of dossiers in your computer, it's very easy that sometimes you can choose the wrong dossier. So that's why I failed these business rules. So it's just to start again. In 5 minutes, I will submit a new dossier. So we are communicating to you through ReachIT. The messages are for your information. For example, if you are kind of message you will receive, if you are a member of a joint submission and a new member joins, you will receive a message saying this new member has joined. We also have tasks. As I said before, tasks are things where an action is required. For example, if companies fail business rules, TCC, or if they receive an invoice, and they are they have a deadline in order to be completed. There is another way of seeing what kind of information we are sending. If you are going to the submission report, in the section of key messages, there you will see all the information regarding all the attachments or the documents that we have sent related to that submission. For example, the invoices, the final decisions. You will be able to see that information there. But we are not only communicating through Reach IT. So if, as I said, if you have your contact details in the email notification, a specific name, so every day, if something is happening in Reach IT, you are receiving messages or tasks, you will receive a resume of a summary of what has happened there. So in this case, I got 1 new task and 4 new messages. So you go there, it's like, okay, I know that something has happened there. So check that you receive these emails. I mean, it's only one person that can receive per company, not per company, but per user account. But check that you are receiving this message not in your spam folder. So I show you quick what's the way of submitting a dossier when a dossier has been created in Euclid. As I said, there is another way of submitting a dossier without using Euclid. So this is what we call online dossiers. This way of submitting dossiers and creating dossiers is a simplified way to create a member registration dossier. So it's only for members. It has a step-by-step wizard with online help features. The compulsory information is highlighted in each step of the process. So it tells you which business rules you have to complete and explains you what you have to do in order to complete them. And it tells you which TCC rules you have to complete in order to proceed. There is pre-fill information and reduced number of the fields compared with Euclid. And it's also possible to automatic saving and to update the dossier in the future as well. There are though some conditions. This is only for the members of the joint submission. If for a specific substance you submitted in the past a Euclid dossier, you will not be able to update your dossier using the dossier online. However, if you submit a dossier online, you will be able to then update using the Euclid. But then later, you will not be able to use the dossier online. It's only possible to use only one composition to register. If you need to add 2 different compositions, if you are using a manufacturing process that provides you 2 different compositions, you cannot use the Euclid online. And if you want to provide additional study or own records, you cannot use it either. So it's mainly based for SMEs with limited information. Very useful though. So this is a recap of what kind of information has to be submitted by the lead. So of course, some data has to be provided. So every co-registrant of the joint submission has to submit the substance identity, including the impurities, the tonnage band of the substance they are registering for, the uses and conditions of use through the life cycle. And for co-registrants that are registering 10 tons per year or more, so they have to attach the chemical safety report, unless this has been agreed with the lead. In the online dossiers, you will also be able to indicate confidentiality claims. So how to use the wizard? We can start again from the joint submission page. This is the easiest way of doing it. So if we go back to the previous joint submission, and instead of clicking submit a dossier, we click in create and submit online, then we will first go to the confirm page. In here, it says what you cannot do, what you can do and what you cannot do in case of you want to submit the dossier online. For example, it says you have not previously submitted for this substance a registration dossier created using Euclid. So there are different conditions. What I explained before, it's here, in case of if you forgot by the time you want to use the user online. And then we go to different 16 steps that you have to complete in order to submit the dossier successfully. First one, here I cannot see, good that I wrote it down here. Main constituents. So the first step is regarding the main constituents. So in here you would select what's the appropriate type of substance, if it's a multi, a mono, or a UBCV. Oops, I clicked something else there. And at this point, I would like to tell you that, well, once again, you can use the help by clicking into the book icon on the top right, and you will be able to change the language in here as well. We are still in the first step, and we move to the second, the substance identification. So this is taken from the lead dossier. So then you will need to verify and agree or add more information on your own substance composition in this step. You see every time now when we go to the third step, which is trade name and other identifiers, you see these red messages in here. Here it's the TCC rules that you have to correct in order to continue. So for example, in this case, you must provide analytical information to cover at least one identification and one quantification approach as indicated in the purpose of analysis field. So this is very easy to correct. Just read there. If you have doubts, click in the booklet and you will get more information about that. If we go to the substance composition, so in here you will need to add a detailed description of the composition of the substance, the degree of purity, the concentration range. Once again, as Francois mentioned, you have to indicate the units for this. So you can include information on the constituents, the stabilizers, or the impurities for this step. And once again, use the help. Supply chain. For the supply chain, here it will indicate if you are an importer, an only representative, and a manufacturer. You have that on your booklet, I think. So you can use this as a guide. Also, okay, in a few days you will not remember all the different steps. You have to think, is it better if I create a Euclid dossier or if I use it an online dossier? So it's up to you. Some people prefer the Euclid. Once you are into it, it's very, very useful. If I don't use Euclid in 3 months, after 3 months I have forgotten almost everything. So, but when I have 2 days working on that, it's like, well, actually this is good. Then the administrative information, so this is regarding the tonnage band, and that you have to indicate what you are planning to register in this case, or if it's a phase-in or a non-phase substance. I always click in the wrong one. Here, CNL inventory. In this step, you can agree with the information provided by the lead. So if you agree, you just continue. If not, you can indicate your own classification and labeling. If the system will not allow you to continue if there are some errors, so sometimes you will wonder, why I cannot continue here. So in this case you can, but in the past, we had some specific example in here. Oh gosh, here. In there. I cannot continue. Why? Because I have to complete some business rules. So sometimes it's like, okay, what can I do in order to get the next button? So for CNL, you can agree. Most likely you will agree with the composition that it was with the CNL that the lead provided. But of course, sometimes you have different kinds of impurities that will make that your composition, that your CNL information is different. We go then to the uses. I'm too fast here. Once again, the system tells you what you have to indicate. So if you don't indicate anything, you will not be able to complete, to continue. And then the uses advance against, same thing. We go to the use information section. In here you indicate like estimated quantities per year for your substance. And the next one is about the assessment reports. So if you have agreed with the lead that he submits the chemical safety report and the guidance on safe use, and if he has done it, so you will be able to continue. Otherwise, you have to include your own CSR and your own guidance on safe use. We go to the confidentiality claim. So in Euclid, you indicate the confidentiality claims in its section. In here, we have it at the end of the process. So we have the same confidentiality claims as for Euclid. You can indicate the same. So UPAC name, safety data sheet, tonnage band, but we have it all in one section here. Once we have done all this, you can of course navigate and go to the different steps to see what you have indicated. But after filling all this information, you will have a dossier preview that you will be able to check. And if the information is not as you expected it was, as you expected you had filled, you go back and you can correct this information. You can, for example, you don't need to do this in one go. You can take breaks, you can go to meetings, you can take a coffee. When you come back, you can still work in your dossier. It will be saved. But remember that you have to save every time. You have to save every time you open a different section. You have to save it. It's a button called Save. So click it there. So once we are done with that, you can finalize the submission in ReachIT. So actually, we were not at this moment in ReachIT. We were in the online version of Euclid. You thought that you were, if you see, there's different colors, different kind of format. You thought you were in ReachIT, but actually you are not. Now you are in ReachIT. That's why sometimes it says go back to ReachIT, and people is like, I thought I was in ReachIT, I never left it. So here you add the contact information, who is going to be the responsible for the registration for this submission. So try to add somebody who knows about it, and then finalize your submission. Then you send it, you get the submission number. If you click in the submission number, you go to the submission report. In this case, we pass the business rules, the TCC. We receive the invoice in the tasks. We pay the invoice, and we receive the registration number successfully. So what have we done? So this is a recap of what we have done with the online dossier. So first, we found the the lead registrant very easily now. We joined the joint submission after talking with the lead and agreeing on the terms and conditions. We created the dossier online very easily. If you have the data on your side, we read the task and messages, business rules, TCC, invoice, and finally we received the registration number. So, key messages on this presentation today. So, finally register directly in Reach IT. Very easy to do now. You can submit your dossier using Euclid first or create the dossier online. Creating a member dossier online is very simple. Try to read the help, the page help, the topic help, but also the different bullet points that we have on the right with the information that you have to have. Try to prepare and gather the data in advance. This is the most consuming part of all. To add information in Euclid or to add information here in Reach IT is simple, but you have to collect all the information. That's what it takes time. And finally, you follow up the progress of your submission in the submission report. Some useful links that I have added: the Euclid SIG website that Francois explained before, the ECA website support section, the ECA website on 2018 deadline, very interesting page with all the webinars that we have had during the last 2 years, and a link to the manuals on the preparing dossiers. So that was all for me. So if you have some questions about Reach IT, I will try to answer. Thank you very much.